Hey folks, I wanted to share this recording with you and the incredible story of how it got from where it was to where it is right now. First off, I have to tell you, this is a Victor Monarch record, Eldridge Johnson label, For All Eternity, soprano solo sung by Miss Mina Hickman, 3294. Well, I took a trip in September of 2002, 14 years ago. And I took a trip to visit a friend of mine in New Zealand, in Wellington, New Zealand, Yamushin. And, well, after visiting all the sites around Wellington and seeing the beehive and this, that, and everything else, he mentioned to me in his very New Zealand accent, "There's a gramophone down the street." And I said, "Oh, really?" And he said, "Yeah." And so I decided to go check out this place where there was a gramophone. I had seen tons of gramophone, really didn't interest me too much. But he wrote out directions for me. And it was down off of Cuba Street in Wellington, New Zealand. So I walked down. It was a pleasant day. I finally found the shop. I walked in. And oh, what a shop it was. You know, there was all kinds of stuff at this place. And there were all kinds of gramophones at this place. And I found that really quite fascinating. What I found really neat about it was the fact that they had cabinet gramophones, they had HMV portables, they had a bunch of records, they had a lot of needle tins and the like. And I said, okay, gramophones. And then at the far end of this lovely shop, and it was a fascinating guy that was running it. He was very talkative and telling me all kinds of stuff. There was a Gramophone and Typewriter Senior Monarch special at the shop. Now, one doesn't see a Senior Monarch gramophone very often. They were the top of the line. They're very ornate, very fancy, and lots of gingerbread, etc. And I was in awe. I looked at this thing and examined it. And it was really quite fascinating. There was a record on the turntable. It was Nat King Cole on a Capitol record singing "That's Life." Well, it was a little late for the machine. The machine was like around 1904, 1905. I mean, you just don't run into gramophone and typewriter machines very often. Well, the proprietor said, "Do you like the machine?" I said, "It's very nice." It was a gramophone and typewriter machine. It had a wooden horn on it. It was gorgeous. And I was smitten immediately, but I had a slight issue. I was 14,000 miles away from home. The interesting thing as well was that the American dollar was about, at that time, I think it was about $3 for every dollar there. Might have been a little bit more. Don't remember exactly. It's a long time ago. But I was quite smitten with the machine and amazed by it. But I didn't expect much to do with it. But what the heck. And the guy told me, he said, "By the way, there's some records that came with this machine. Would you like to look at them?" I said, "Sure." So he pulled out a pile of records. And they were of various vintages. A number of Columbia, Australian, and some English stuff. And there was a couple of American records. And as I got halfway through the pile, I ran into this. And I'm like going, whoa, here I am in Wellington, New Zealand. Now, for those of you who know your geography, Wellington, New Zealand has North Island and South Island, and below that is Antarctica. So we're really quite far from where I was in the New York City area. And so I was sitting there face to face with an Eldridge R. Johnson pre-dog record. It's the last thing I ever expected to see in Wellington, New Zealand. And my mind at that point just sat there and said, how the heck did it get all the way from being manufactured in Camden, New Jersey in 1901 and worked its way all the way to Wellington, New Zealand? Must have been an amazing trip. But I discovered something. Now, there's lots of writing on the back of this record that I put with China clay to remind myself of things and other stuff. But I want to show you something. It's kind of interesting. Yes, there were 679 copies made. But I found this rather interesting here that's original to the record. It says made in the USA. It's faded. But it's an export record by the Victor Talking Machine Company to market their records. Now, I always laugh about such things like this, but think about it. Isn't that incredible that a pre-dog Victor record, manufactured by Johnson, 679 copies total, and one of them ended up all the way in Wellington, New Zealand. Well, I took a number of the records that came with the machine. I packed them in a suitcase, carefully wrapping around clothes and everything else, because the last thing I had ever imagined I would be doing was getting records in Wellington. Yamu Shin, got a special suitcase from his brother that I was able to fit the gramophone machine into, the gramophone typewriter machine. And the horn, well, I was worried. And so I was able, since the flight wasn't full, to have the horn come with me. It was really quite nice. And so I brought all of that from Wellington, New Zealand, all the way back, and I landed in JFK Airport in late September 2002. Brought the machine and the records home. And what was most incredible was that this record that started its life in New Jersey after 100 and, at the time, 100 years, a little bit over 100 years, came back to the state in which it was made. How often do things like that happen? I think it's one of the most incredible things I've ever experienced in the field of collecting. Finding a record at the far end of the world. I mean, you can't get much further than southern North Island, New Zealand. And one of those records, which was made for export, as you saw on the back, came back to whence it came. So without further ado, I'd like to let you hear this record. As you'll notice, it's not in the best of condition. But my God, it's the most incredible record in the sense of the journey in which it took. Can you imagine what the journey must have been like for this record? Manufactured in Camden. From Camden, it probably was sent by train to New York. In New York, it was already crated, I'm sure, was put onto a ship. The ship went to wherever. Obviously took months. And finally it would be delivered to the home in New Zealand, delivered in a carriage pulled by horses. Now, after it was found, it was packed around a lot of clothes, put onto a plane, and flew. And in 26 hours, it was back in the state from which it was made. I just find it nothing short of incredible. And I consider this one of the most amazing moments in my career as a collector. It's nothing special, as I said, but it's so special in what it is and what it represents. So without further ado, here's Miss Mina Hickman singing For All Eternity from a record that has certainly traveled the globe.
For all eternity, done by Miss Mina Hickman.